So where did you get your start with Final Fantasy in general?
Final Fantasy in general, um, this is going to be a weird story. Uh, when the PS2 came out, I had a friend who had a PS1, and I always wanted one. And he was just like, "Well, I'll sell it to you for $50." And I was just like, "Okay." And I'm like, 12, $50. And then I talked to my mom about it. She was just like, "Well, here's $50. This will be for your birthday." So I went to his house and I was like, "Yeah, my mom gave me the money for my birthday to buy your PlayStation 1." And he was just like, "Oh, this is for your birthday?" And I was just like, "Yeah." And then he just gave it to me. He was just
Nice.
like, "You could just have this." And he gave me memory card, a controller with the dual analog, the good boys. And I realized, like, after getting home, I didn't have any games. So my dad came to visit me for my birthday, and we went to EB Games, and we were like just digging around, and in the bottom of EB Games' used bin was Final Fantasy VII.
Oh wow.
And I couldn't tell you why it was in there, but my dad looked at it, saw it was only like $15 or $20, and he was just like, "Is this all you want for your birthday?" And I was just like, "Yeah." And then I proceeded to sit in my room in the era of the PlayStation 2, playing PlayStation 1 and Final Fantasy VII for an entire summer.
Oh
I
nice.
I don't I don't think I could emulate the power of that summer again. But that was the game that 7 really did get me into the game, and it was a used copy from the bottom of a bin. And that's it.
Oh, I have well, not a similar story, but Final Fantasy VII was my start into Final Fantasy. Um, I wasn't a fan at the time. I was about the same age, 12, 13, of the idea of turn base. It was alien to me because I grew up on games like Doom, completely different. But I didn't start with the PlayStation version. I started with the PC version, which came out about a year later.
Mhm.
My friend had it, and he burned me a copy when that was something that I guess you could still do, but that's just something you did when you were a kid because you didn't have money as a kid unless you had birthdays.
Mhm.
Um, and then once I started playing it, I just became obsessed with it. And because it was the PC version, you could mod it, which was really cool. So I put myself in God mode after the first runtime through because who wants to play it normally after you already beat it? You just want to smash things. And I never got to use it, but there was a skin where instead of Cloud, it was Sephiroth. The throw option in the battle system didn't work too well. It was just Sephiroth standing there, and it would like something would come out of him. But yeah, it was pretty. It would have been really cool to play through as Sephiroth. Um, and from there, I was just interested in what other Final Fantasies were. Um, now, I should try FF8 out, but I didn't. When I was younger, I held to other people's opinion more than my own, so I never actually played 8. But I played 9 because it got good praise. And that made me want. And after playing 9, I decided let's try other ones. So I tried 6 and so on and so forth. Which other ones have you played? And where would you rank your favorite ones?
Um, Probably so. It feels like a cop out, but it's going to be everybody's answer. Like, 7 is number 1. Seven is what brought me in. 7 has the most dynamic story. It's the first game to really break away from the Final Fantasy like formula. The we have to get the elemental crystals and defeat the 4 elemental lords, like that kind of deal. It gave us. It also broke the fantasy side, right? We were in a more modern, a more relatable society, at least as
Hmm.
far as living in a city and futuristic tech. So number 1, Final Fantasy VII. Number 2 is definitely going to be Final Fantasy X. I have a copy. I have my memory card around here somewhere that has a maxed out timer in my Final Fantasy X. I loved that game. That was another summer that I just sank my whole life into Final Fantasy X and playing Blitzball. That was the jam. I don't know if you ever played 10, but
I did.
I probably spent like 25 hours just playing Blitzball. Not to just get Waka's sigil and crest and his ultimate weapon, but just because I put together a dope team and I needed to go all the way.
I like 10, but I don't like 10, mostly because of the voice acting. Their first time through with, well, at least for the English voice acting, it just wasn't that great. But mine would be most certainly FF7, then 9. I really like 9. Surprisingly, when at least what I've seen on social media and sometimes in real life, some people say 8. Really surprising. I need to try 8 to figure out why, but some people say 8.
One of my cousins, she and I shared a love of Final Fantasy growing up, and 8 is hands down her favorite. I never finished it. I became relatively disassociated. I didn't like the junction function in that game. That rhymed. That was really cool. I didn't care for it. So I just became disassociated and disinterested. But she plowed through it. She loved it. She would share the story and things with me. And quick sidebar about your favorite game, 9. Well, not favorite. I don't know. 9. I got a copy of 9. I got every single one of my Final Fantasies used. And because I am a dum-dum, I bought my used copy of Final Fantasy 9 back before like GameStop started just having the case in their used bin. You just go get the case and then they'd put the discs in.
Mm-hmm.
No. So I get home, throw in the first disc, play through it, throw in the second disc, play through it, get to the point on when you're on the airship and your team splits apart, regret that because everybody in the other team was super underleveled. So that was frustrating. So I went through the grind and they were like, please insert disc 3. And I flipped open the back. No disc 3.
Oh, God.
I had disc 4. No disc 3. Didn't check. Never thought to check. So unfortunately, never finished that one either. That's one I regret not finishing.
I regrettably haven't finished 10, 9, or 6 because for whatever reason my team wasn't strong enough, or I just didn't put in the time or time to beat the final bosses. The final bosses in every one of those games, for whatever reason, I just could not get past. It's quite frustrating, even though I love the story.